Want to know what your dog is thinking?
Have a challenging dog behavior you need help with?
The Dish on Dogs is your source for all your canine questions.
Improve your relationship with your dog and deepen your understanding of your furry friend. Right here on the Dish on Dogs. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another exciting and really a deep dive into dog behavior. I'm your host, Mike Gould. This is the Dish on Dogs, the show about dogs, pet care, business. With me today is one of my favorite guests by far because he's one of the most anthropomorphic people I know. And it's good because most of our customers at Houndstown are highly anthropomorphic. Look it up. If you don't know what anthropomorphism is, you should know. So Corey is joining us again for another episode because we left off, and I really do enjoy it because he's very sincere and he's the epitome of our customers. We all love our dogs. You love your dogs. You go buy the best dog beds, the best food, the best veterinary care. We do all of these wonderful things because we love our dogs. But what we don't do, or we rarely do, is get to understand the brain of a dog and the behavior of a dog. We do it with our children, right? So if you, again, would talk a lot about 1 and 2 year old children, we get them hearing tests, we get them eye tests, we do all of these things, and we understand humans because we are one, and we were one. So we understand the development of a human child. So that's all we have to go on because you can't see in the dark. Dogs can. They can hear things 100 yards away. You can't. They can smell things you can't. So it's very difficult. It's the most complicated matter for smart people. So let me introduce today's very smart person. His name is Corey Packer. He's our marketing director, and he's amazing at what he does, is making videos and content, and his great imagination. He understands. I don't even know how to plug in a camera. I think there's film in there. So he knows this stuff. I have no clue. So it's not a question. What we're going to talk about is not a question of stupidity. It's confusion and not understanding the abilities of a dog. So welcome again to this show. This
Thanks.
is so exciting.
This is, yeah.
So I can't even tell
that wasn't sarcasm. Thank you. No, thank you for having me again. I'm glad that you wanted to do a second episode with me because I have a lot of questions, and just like I like how you said it, it's more of a confusion than like a dumb question or a dumb feeling or whatever. So to piggyback off of our last conversation, we talked about ESP, them dogs having
extrasensory perception.
And then we talked about like the emotion, the human emotion that we put, like just how you started it off. When you were rattling off those things of buying the best food, buying the best, that's literally us. We always think, oh, he has to have this because it's going to make his life better. When I come to your house, Maggie is rolling around in a dirt hole,
right,
happy as fucking anything.
Right.
So that makes me think like, wait, why does Boomer need a $200 bed that he never uses? Because he has
maybe not want.
Yeah, he has a king size bed that he goes on. He has a couch that he goes. So anyway, one of my first questions is, you tell me that I project my anxiety, like when I'm walking him, when I see other dogs, I get anxious. Why and how is Boomer picking up my emotions and my anxiety from like our dog walks when he sees another dog?
Right. So again, it's a great question. It's a very common question. We talk about leash aggression. We talk about barrier aggression. We talk about dogs barking out the window and going ballistic when the doorbell rings. They're all absolutely the same. So people want to diagnose it. You talked in the last episode, is your dog being traumatized at a dog park? Trauma is a very complicated issue that usually lies in our human brain trauma, right? People have PTSD. They have ADD. Dogs live with that. That's their life. So to answer your question, how do dogs know? Just by putting tension on your leash. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When a dog can control its environment, when it's absent its normal pack, which all domestic dogs are, it's absent of its pack members, animal pack members. So dogs learn very quickly, as children do, by barking, or in a child's case, crying. They can manipulate their environment very easily. So what does that mean? Your dog, Boomer, barks at a dog approaching from 100 yards away. He's not barking at a dog a mile away. And as the dog gets closer and closer and closer, your anxiety level goes up, his anxiety level goes up. So you restrain the dog. So a leash, being tethered to something, is completely unnatural to a wild dog, right? They just run around the nature. They don't get tied to anything. So it would be like me tying your feet together and ask you to run away from a house fire. Right. It's counterintuitive. So as soon as we put literal tension on the leash, creates tension in the dog. You're holding it back and you're removing it from its focus or its anxiety, which is another dog. So think of how powerful this is. If a dog barks out a window and then the mailman disappears, it gives the dog such a great sense of power. So if somebody knocks on the front door and you and everybody listening goes through this crazy ritual of giving instructions, don't open the door. When you come in, just let the dog sniff your crotch. I don't let dogs sniff my crotch, just for the record. So, but these are the rituals that many of you are a version of that. At least, if nothing else, you're afraid the dog's going to run out of the front door, even if he's the most subordinate member of your pack. Most dogs are not that well trained. So the bottom line, again, whether it's territorial aggression, the dog is creating its reality by barking and going. You said in the last episode, the hackles on his back comes up.
Yeah.
Yet, when these people or dogs were introduced correctly, they can play. So it's not a hatred of the other dog. It's none of these things. It's the dog not being able to run away. They lose their ability to fight or flee.
Right.
So,
and it's situational.
It's very situational. It's again, we talk about police dogs. We've all seen dogs, these German shepherds in the back of police dogs, biting at the, going ballistic. Right. But they're taught to do that. Yet I could bring a police dog to show and tell and interact with kindergarten children.
Right.
So it's situational, and the reaction is created in a nanosecond. It doesn't build up like the dog's anxiety. With human anxiety, it's gradual. It's like, oh shit, here comes a dog. I hope the dog doesn't come towards me. I hope the dog goes away. And now you're
literally 100%.
100%. You're trying to now say, okay, he's traumatized by another dog because at the dog park he had to. So I think, again, it's a human projection. It's not as bad as we think it is, and it can be corrected in a relatively simple way. But it's so often so simple that people have a difficult time to do it. And of course, if this is done when a dog is 4, 5, or 6 months old, in the proper way. And nobody does this, because most people don't do anything until a problem arises.
Right.
And then they use their human brain to try to psychoanalyze by devices. They put blinds up so the dog can't look out the window. They don't take them for walks anymore. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy for the dog. Unfortunately, the dog is our hostage. We talk about that.
Yeah.
So you could have the horse, the thoroughbred horse that won the Triple Crown. He's still going into a barn, eating hay and drinking water. He's not coming into the trainer's house and sleeping in bed with him. The pigs, every animal you can think of doesn't have the burden of being part of a human family. And it is a burden for them. There is a benefit because, as you said it, he loves me and I love him. And they do. They have a tremendous amount of loyalty. But it's more of a need than it is an emotion. They need to look at you because you're the focal point of their life. Oh, he's going to cry. Here's what they don't have. They don't have thumbs and they can't adjust height. So Boomer relies on you completely. Right. They live 18 inches off the ground. The only way he's getting food is if you or Corinne give it to him, period. Right. So they're not thinking about anything that's happening. They're not thinking about the summer. They're not thinking about the winter. They're not thinking about tomorrow if they're going. They're thinking about the moment in time, and they stare at you. And if they bark, you're almost 100% certain to look at them.
Right.
So think of the power of a child. We do it with children. If a child cries,
right to it,
we look at them right away.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
And then they learn how to manipulate. Children are narcissistic as much as dogs are.
Right.
They don't care about anything about you. Boomer doesn't care that you got to drive 5 hours.
Yeah.
He wants his shit taken care of. He don't care how he does it or when he does it.
Right.
So again, if we think of dogs as 1 or 2 year old children without the ability, you ask the question, how come dogs don't talk? The question is, they don't have a brain that can listen and pronounce vowels and all of the things how you teach a child. They just don't have it. They never will. They're never going to evolve more than what they are.
Okay, good. All right, cool. So that actually dumbs it down for me and kind of like
Does it really?
It does. It makes a lot more sense. And the thing is, I know a lot of this already because I've talked to you a bunch.
Right.
But it's still hard for me. The hardest thing for me is don't look, talk, or touch. It's amazing because we'll do some tests every now and then at the house. Just don't look, talk, or touch. And sure as shit, it works. But then I'm like, kill me,
Right.
I'm like, I'm a mush.
Yeah.
But my question though is you talked about it earlier, like the ritual of when the doorbell rings or when that is so true that when he hears a sound on the TV that sounds like the Ring doorbell, or someone knocks on the door, or a friend comes over, he is excited. It's not like he's not aggressive. He's just excited, and it's very much like, all right, you take him out back and you do this, and I'll tell the person not to come in yet, and I'll situate. It's a shit show. How, and I know that has to happen all the time at people watching and listening.
Of course.
Their dogs go crazy when the doorbell goes crazy.
Right.
And when my friends come over, we have company, and he's jumping up on them, and I'm like, knee him in the chest a little bit to knock him down and all this other stuff. Like, how do you manage that?
Right. Well, again, I think you have to go back to think of a 1 or 2 year old child, because the dog is never going to be there. So sometimes we put dogs in environments that it's overstimulating for them. So I talk about this. If you have a 1 or 2 year old child, you wouldn't take them to Times Square for New Year's Eve. You know that that's inappropriate. They couldn't function. They'd be sleeping. It'd be overstimulating to them. So what happens is with dogs, again, unfortunately or fortunately, now Boomer becomes the focus of your friends. They come in. It's natural for people to look, talk, and touch dogs.
Right.
We've been trained by dogs to do that. So the dogs have trained us to look at them, to talk to them, and touch them.
Yeah.
So just by a dog smelling your crotch, as I said, most people are going to put their hand down and push the dog away. But when you put your hand down, it's precisely what the dog is looking for, your hand. Dogs will look around to manipulate your body. That's how they survive in the wild, right? They manipulate and they follow the leader of the pack. So they know very quickly, bark, somebody looks at me. Come into their space, they're almost certainly going to touch me. So they've trained us in a matter of minutes. They don't do it when they first come. If people have the opportunity to think of their dog when they first, even a rescue dog, when it first comes to your home, it's what I call a honeymoon phase, because the dogs don't know you, they don't know your house, they don't know anything. So they don't come to your house on the first day and start barking at the front
They're like
door.
on their best behavior almost.
Well, they're on their best behavior because you haven't taught them to go crazy yet. You're going to teach them to go crazy, right? So the door and the doorbell, they haven't figured this out. They don't know where the food is. They don't know where they don't know anything. So they're like a good house guest, right? They're on their best behavior. But if you don't have good leadership with your house guest, the next thing they'll be taking your keys to your car and going out.
Right. Yeah.
So again, it's so simple, these things, to me, and to understanding, and not necessarily doing it, very honestly. I let dogs in bed, but there's a difference between inviting a dog in bed, and I'm talking about four-legged dogs, not when I was single. When I was a single man, dogs were, jeez, I like to think about it. But anyway, and even in that case, they were always invited. Right? Living creatures need to be invited on a couch. And again, it's no different than children. 2-year-old children, not 5-year-old. 5-year-old children are like super geniuses compared to a dog. So when we just think about the simplicity, and if you just put it in those terms, it's not easy because we've already programmed. I'm programmed. I say good morning to my dog.
Right.
I don't never talk back. He never says good morning to you too, because guess what? He couldn't give a shit. He just wants his needs met in that moment of time, whatever it is. I want to go in, I want to go out. And if I can manipulate your hands and body to open a door, I got you. I'll go in.
Crazy.
You ever see dogs? They're in, they're out. They want to go in. And I have people telling me they won't stay out without me. They've actually literally trained the humans to be out there with them.
That's
That's
same.
you.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like
Right.
but see, they do so. They've trained us so well to where we as humans we
Right.
look at it. It's like a fun, not so much a ritual, but kind of like, oh, they want us to go outside with them. It's
Right.
like, well, no, he just
Right. It's part of our ego, right? It's nice, but what other creatures are going to do that for
True.
us? I've never met anybody that
Yeah.
wants me so much that they. So if a dog, and we want to believe that, and it is true, they want you. But it's like a kid eating ice cream. A kid would like to stay up all night long eating ice cream, but
Right.
we know that's not good for them. So
Right.
we set boundaries. So
Okay.
we talk about leadership, boundaries, and consistency. But
So, all right. So, how do, instead of kneeing Boomer in the chest and telling my guests to do the same, how do I create those boundaries, those needs that are met and stuff like that in a way that, we can almost negate or like limit the times that or occurrences that he'll like go crazy.
right.
And it's not an aggressive crazy. He's just you're right. He's overstimulated.
Right. But the simple answer is this. This is what I tell people all the time. Whatever the trigger is for your dog, usually it's a sound, usually a high-pitched sound, because dogs hear at higher decibel levels that don't exist in the wild. So that's the other thing.
Right.
Think of a 2-year-old and what's in nature. When you think of what's in nature, there's dirt, there's rock, there's vegetation. That's it. Anything you add to that environment that dogs evolved into is beyond their comprehension. So there's no vacuum cleaners, there's no mirrors, there's no windows. Nothing that is in our world is in nature,
Right.
except dirt, vegetation, and trees maybe, and rocks. So so here's what I would say. Any trigger, whether it's a doorbell or vacuum, if a dog grew up in a doorbell factory or a vacuum cleaner factory,
wouldn't
it
affect
would
them.
go to sleep.
Right.
So and when we think of our own human behavior, so I go to people's houses and I just bang on their door and I ring the bell for 20 minutes. And then sooner or later, the dog is like, what's going on here? Because it doesn't connect. It's not fulfilling what its expectations of a doorbell is. The same thing as a vacuum cleaner. If you allow the vacuum cleaner, which is a high-pitched, high-decibel sound, that actually smells like another animal because the vacuum cleaner is sucking up dog hair. So your dog sees this creature
Right.
that just comes out very randomly. So if you can teach the dog just by putting the vacuum down on the ground without turning it on, but we're so fast in our rituals, right? Has there ever been a time that you rang the doorbell and then left? Of course not. Or stand there at the doorbell for 5 minutes, you
Right.
open a door, you go through it. So the rituals happen very quickly for dogs, and they connect dots so fast, and sometimes it's irreversible.
Really.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you think of a dog, you ever see, I don't know, maybe you have or not. People say, oh, my dog learned never to go on the carpet. He learned it on by himself. And they're very proud of how intelligent his
Right.
dog is, that he
Right.
learned by himself not
Yeah.
to go on carpeting like he knows what carpet is. But what really happened was he probably put his pad down, his paw.
Didn't like it.
Well, he got a static shock.
Right.
Or didn't like it. So dogs navigate with their pads. They're very tactile, right? Meaning everything is about touch with dogs. Everything, that's how they survive.
Right.
They don't put their foot on hot coals and burn themselves. So even if you're walking your dog down the street, you'll see he might jump over a manhole cover.
Yes.
Or avoid a manhole
Right.
cover because the manhole is steel.
Right.
So it has a higher temperature than the asphalt that he's used to.
Right.
So they navigate through the world here. So I think the point is, you've got to take your big neocortex off. This big, I got to show it because I haven't touched my brain in a long time. So we have to, all this white cauliflower stuff is all of this crazy stuff in our head, which is wonderful. This is what allows Corey to choreograph videos and think and adjust cameras. That's all here. Here is this poor little dog brain that's not capable, it hasn't developed like this. So here it is, and this is kind of primal. It's not as primal, of course, as the reptile brain. It's kind of the intermediary brain. So what I talk about is being bilingual, and I go around all over the country, as you know, we try to teach franchisees who are smart geniuses in their own right.
Right.
Marketing, video, all of these things. When it comes to dogs, you see, I get excited talking about human things. When I'm with dogs, I go, and when I go like that, guess what the dog does? He looks and he goes, oh. So when you can get there, and I get distracted. Obviously, I have somewhat of a human brain, and it gets distracted by that's because I'm a human. I'll never be a dog. You and I will never know what it's like to smell the ingredients of a pizza.
Right.
You're never going to hear what your neighbor's doing 3 miles away, and you're not going to have night vision, and you can see almost things that are almost behind you moving in pitch black 100 yards away.
Wow.
But dogs do that. Not 100%, 180 degrees, but their eyes are separated, so they have much greater peripheral vision. So just think of that. If you could walk around, you could sit on your porch at night, have a beer, and look at things moving 100 yards
And
away.
smell things. And
Smell
hear
things.
Yeah.
Right. So when the dog barks in the middle of the night, it's barking because it's an anomaly that's happening in the middle of the night. That same noise during the day, he won't pay attention to because it's normal. So dogs are detecting anomalies in their environment. Whether it's smoke, we talked about this on a show with Jackie, where the story goes the dog woke up in the middle of the night and saved the whole family from the burning building. It's just detecting an anomaly, which is in a house fire, it's smoke and heat. So why is this getting hot? And
It shouldn't be at this time.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I start panicking, I bark, I wake up the family, and then the story is, Fido saved the family from the burning house when he really was just trying to save his own ass to get outside. He needs your thumbs to open the back door. More than likely, because the parents are probably home drunk, unconscious, it's more likely that the little kid will wake up and use his thumbs to open the door. So he goes to the kids' room, wakes the kids up, and the kid will open the door, and then that's how the human story unfolds.
That the dog saved their life.
Saved the kid saved the family, and this is all wonderful.
So that kind of actually sparked another question. What are we good with time? Okay. So what's the their sense of time? When I leave at 12 o'clock in the afternoon to go run some errands and I'm gone for 4 hours, does Boomer because this is what happens. We're getting ready to leave, or we're gonna go on like a hike or do something, and we're gonna be gone for a good amount of time. It kills us. Because he's like, his ears go back. Right. He looks sad. He looks like, why are you leaving? I was excited to go with you. But we're not taking you. Does he? Because within like 30 minutes after we leave, we check the cameras and he's like knocked out. So do they have a sense of time to where they're like, oh, my owner's never coming back?
Right. So they tell time not by an Apple Watch, but what you just described, your behavior. So they don't have a sense of time. They do naturally with sunrise, light, and day. Mm-hmm. That triggers some sense of time, but not it's 3 o'clock, these guys aren't coming back till 6. You don't even know that. So no. So they don't. They know time from our behavior. So if you work nights, just reverse it. Work nights, they don't know night or day. The dog is going to adapt. That's the beauty of a dog, and one of the reasons we love them. They're very adaptable. That's why they do. I don't want to portray them as these moronic creatures. Mm-hmm. They do things that are more technological. I could tell you, I would bet you, when I can train a dog to find plastic explosives, that is odorless, heroin, odorless, cocaine, odorless, it is the most technological advancement. There's no technology, including NASA, Elon Musk. You cannot develop an instrument that can run 25 miles an hour, can detect odors that are odorless, hear things 80 feet away that you can't. So there are these amazing technologies. I used to, when I was in law enforcement, I would go around and challenge technology, whether it's a helicopter, whatever you got, bring it on. Mm-hmm. Robot cameras, infrared.
Right.
The dogs will blow you away constantly. So they are amazing, but we just don't tap into what they're really good at.
Right.
So it's like, again, you're not harnessing it. So when I harness that, now the dog can really live out what it's been put on earth to do, and that's a hunter. So it hunts, whether it's hunting cocaine, whether it's hunting heroin. Obviously, it's not ingesting it.
Yeah.
So my point is, dogs are fascinating. They've been supplying man with such great things. They've been our original alarm system.
Right.
So you want to go back to cavemen, we'd throw a couple of literally ribs at them, and they would eat them, and then they were actually the weaker members of wolves. This is a story for another day, but domestic dogs were just weak wolves that strayed from the pack, and then they relied on human scraps to stay around the camps, the outskirts of the camp. Then they would start to howl. So they're doing what they're doing naturally. Your dog should be barking. If your dog's barking at 2 o'clock in the morning, trust me, he's barking at something. He might not know what he's barking at, but there's something happening, whether it's something that's that's an anomaly for 2 o'clock in the morning. Going back to your
Right,
question.
which that's what happens. Like when it freaks me out because
Yeah.
I'm like ready to. I'm like, all right,
Right.
here it's someone's
I
breaking
wish
in.
I wish we had more time. I wish we could
I
do
know.
another episode. I have some really
How much time left?
cool. I have to go pee. So look, this
All right.
thing has to end. It has to end.
I did get my. I'll get my.
Can we do one more? You don't want to? Is that too much?
No, I mean if you want, we can do.
All
it.
right, it's up to.
All right, it's up to Cooper.
Cooper's
All right.
looking at us.
All right, so
Let's get this
before
shit
you
done.
leave,
yes. Yes.
Monday nights at 8 p.m., you can check the Dish on Dogs podcast on Facebook, on our Facebook page on the Dish on Dogs. Follow us and like us. Subscribe on YouTube.
Yes.
Check us out on all of the audible and video platforms. We're on iTunes,
Yes.
Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and anything.
Yes.
So
I'm
that's it.
doing the pee-pee dance
Yeah.
here. Normally, if Jackie was here, she'd smack me. So I'm good. Join us again next week
Yes.
for another exciting episode.
Peace.
Peace out.